It's time for the Property Podcast, where every week tens of thousands of property investors, new and experienced, join together to get news, knowledge and laughs at our expense. With me, Rob Bence.
And me, Rob Dix. Join us every Thursday morning for your weekly dose of property ideas and motivation. Then head over to our website at thepropertypodcast.com to keep the conversation going. Now though, let's get started.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Property Podcast. It is episode 104. I still can't believe we're through 100. But I'll tell you what is the same. I'm still Rob B. With me is still Rob D. And we are ready to go. And today, ladies and gentlemen, the gloves are off. The gloves are off. We're battling. Normally we agree, but today it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's another one of those. We've not even agreed to disagree. We're just disagreeing. We'll see how that plays out throughout the episode. So we're talking about, is it better to save money or create money? So this is following on from our episode last week about saving for a deposit. As well as that, we've got a really interesting news story, a handy resource of the week, and everything you expect from the Property Podcast. Also, as you may have come to expect from the Property Podcast, a teaser for something that we can't tell you yet, but we're very excited about. Over to you, Rob.
We do love a teaser that actually tells you nothing. Next week, the big announcement we talked about at the start of the year. So we said, right, the things we're planning. So if you didn't listen to the things we've got coming up this year, go and have a listen. One of the things we mentioned was the book, and wow, what an amazing success that was. But the book, as we said at the beginning of the year, wasn't and isn't the biggest thing we're doing in 2015, which I know sounds incredible because that was a best-selling book. But actually, what we've got planned is so much bigger. It's unbelievable. We've built a team to deliver this new project. So what is it? Join us next week and we'll tell you more. But we are so close to being able to tell you what it is. We are super excited. And really, if you think the hub was big, if you think launching new podcasts was big, if you think launching a book was big, wait until you hear out next week.
Yep. And if you think you've guessed what it is, you're wrong, because it's not something that we thought we'd be doing, but it does make sense, really. We think, hope, perhaps. Okay. So that's that. There will be more to come next week. Let's move on, though, to news that isn't about us, news that is about crowdfunding. And this is a story from Money Week. The link will be in the show notes at thepropertyhub.net/makeorsave, which is the link for this week. And this article I thought was really interesting, Rob, because crowdfunding is something that you hear a fair bit about. There was a topic about it in the Property Hub recently, but it's not something that we've really talked about before. And this article does a really good job of talking about why it's appealing, but also why it's quite risky and why you should be cautious about it. And Money Week in general does seem to be pretty negative about everything, property in particular, so you've got to keep that in mind. But I think this article is actually really balanced, and it does a good job of saying, yes, here's the appeal, but there are lots of things that you've got to be wary about as well.
Yeah, you were right to spread caution there, Rob, because Money Week generally is quite negative against property. And the leader of the tribe, Merrin Somerset Webb, actually wrote this article as well. She just hates property every year without doubt. So it doesn't matter if property is about to go up, down, or indifferent. She loves to slam property. So you do have to take that into consideration. But as you say, it's an interesting article. It's something that we've never personally done. And maybe a future episode we can look at on the podcast as well. So we'll add that to our list to cover. But to get started, go and have a look at this article and read into it a little bit more. But Rob, let's not delay the inevitable. Get your gloves on, strapping up, and ready to go. This week, ladies and gentlemen, is it better to save money or create money? And there's a divide. We have taken sides.
Yeah, we've taken sides. I am taking the case of saving money. So what we talked about last week, the importance of saving to try and get the deposit together. The faster you can save, the faster you can invest, and so on. Rob is taking the other position. He's going to be arguing that saving is really not saying that it's pointless, but it's missing a big part of the picture. That's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to try and get in the first blow. And the first point that I'd make in defense of saving is that, quite simply, it's easier to save £1 than it is to make £1. As you all know, Rob, you run a business, I run a business, we run a business together. It's not easy. It's hard graft to make money. And if you've got a job, we've both had jobs before, and we know that it's hard to make money that way as well. It's not easy to go into work every day and deal with everything that comes along with it. Making money isn't easy. If you can save £1, it's so much easier than making £1. And this is a point that was made as well on a recent programme on Channel 4 with, what's his name? Dave Fishwick, the guy from the Bank of Dave. He did a property programme on there, and this is a point that he made. He was talking about negotiating with all your suppliers, because every pound you spend is a pound you don't have anymore. So my first argument is just, it's easy, so why not?
Rob, you've laid yourself up for me. Dave Fishwick, the multi-millionaire through his businesses. He didn't do it through saving, did he? But that's not my point, but thank you. That's an easy start. But my first counterpoint is saving is a zero-sum game. You can save, but you can only save down to zero. Whereas making money, you can go upwards and it's indefinite. So zero is a zero-sum game. So yes, it is possibly easier to save £1, but you can only save so much. You can only go so far before you can't save any more. So that's my first comeback. What have you got for me?
I'm a bit worried. You're dancing around a point which I feel could be the killer blow later on. So I'll try and distract you from that so you forget about it. And instead, I'll make my next point, which is that making money involves using your time in some way, whether that's within your business, whether it's going to work or whatever. Saving money doesn't. So if you've got a certain amount of money coming in, then if you're careful about how much of that money goes out, it doesn't have to take up any more of your time. I'm not talking about going extreme and making your own jam or clipping coupons or whatever it is people do when they go to really crazy frugal. I'm just talking about being cautious about the money you've got. And if you manage to retain more of the money that comes in the first place, it doesn't take you up any more time, and it gives you more money that you can use to build up, to put to whatever use you want. And this is something that I do in my personal life, and I've always done in business as well. Every so often, just do an audit of what's going out and think, okay, well, do I really need to be spending this? Are we getting the most use out of this service? And it doesn't take long. Within about an hour of thinking about it, you can probably cut the amount of money going out the door by about 20%. And then that's it. Hasn't taken you any time. You've got all this money that you didn't previously have. It's saving, but it's not kind of putting pennies in a jar. It's just kind of thinking, okay, how can I make better use of keeping hold of what I've already got?
Okay, good one. Good comeback. I'll give you that one. It definitely doesn't take as much time. However, you can take it to extremes. It does take time. So doing an audit does take time. Last week, Rob, I'm not saying I come prepared for this episode, but last week you did mention about logging all your costs as well for purposes of saving. You do dedicate a bit of time, but I'm going to give you this one. I'm going to give you it. I think you've made a fair point. Saving does take less time. However, making money can be done in different ways. It's not just businesses. But I'm going to hold back and bring that in later down the line, I think.
Okay, in that case, I'll give you something else to try and do a judo move and use against me then. So my next point is, again, kind of pitching it against the business here, but it's with saving, you've got complete control of how much you can save each month. So again, we said that making money is hard. Making money through a business, any kind of business, is unpredictable. You're not going to be able to guarantee a certain amount coming in, and you can have revenues dropping off a cliff. Anything can happen. But with saving, you're in control. So if you're in the position that some people within the property hub are, where they're living off half of what they earn, then yes, obviously there are unpredictable factors. But in general, it just happens. So if you've set it up, so a certain amount of money is coming in, a certain amount of money is going out, then without really thinking about it, without any time, without any risk, you're just saving a certain amount of money. And once you've got those savings up to a certain point, you can then do something with that money. So I've talked about the time. I'm also talking about the control and the fact and the certainty, I guess, that it just happens. So, okay, how are you going to come back against that one?
Okay, so you have complete control. So the point you're making is, it doesn't depend on how well, say, your business is doing. But as I mentioned before, it's not just business. So yes, a business is a way of creating money. But there are other ways too. You could go into a career choice or a job where the upside earnings are unlimited. So I've worked in property for over a decade and I've not always owned my own company. But there are always bonuses available for good performance. And those bonuses allowed me to save money to do my own investments before I started my company and build that savings pot I needed to launch the company in the first place. So you don't just have to rely on a business. Although I wasn't in complete control, I had certain level of control because my level of performance and my effort levels to that work then control that income. And also, you can create money by investing in a different way. So Pete Matthew, I'm sure, would come to my aid here and say, if you had money and you wanted to build it into more money, he could help you do that. so then you can get to a pot where you can invest into property with. I'm sure he would agree. He isn't here to back me up, but he'd probably agree with you on saving as well, to be fair, Rob. He'd probably go somewhere in the middle. But the point is, most people think, the making money, well, that means starting a business, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It is the way that most people think of first, and that's fine. I understand that, because businesses is a great way of doing that. But you're right, the risk with a business is up and down. It can be famine or feast. Whereas the in-betweens, jobs with unlimited earning potential and investing small sums of money to make them bigger sums of money, are different ways of approaching it. So you don't have to start a business. So you then do have some level of control. But I get your point.
I think so far we've each kind of made a reasonable case for our respective positions. But there is one point that I know you're going to make. I know what you're going to say, so you might as well just say it, because this is something that I can't possibly have a comeback to. So let's just get it out of the way, shall we?
I've been playing with you, Rob. I've been like a cat with a mouse. Just toying with you, ready for this point. And it is this. Saving is great, but the upside of creating money is unlimited. And that is the killer blow. You can create an unlimited amount of money. There is no barrier. I touched on that before. Saving is a zero-sum game, but creating money is unlimited. And the potential to make money, and a big sums of money, is there. You can't make those big sums of money by saving. Let's face it. You've heard about people who got rich through business. You've heard about people who got rich through investing. You've heard people who've got rich through, working for banks and earning big bonuses. But did you ever hear about the person who got rich from saving? No, I've not met them or heard of them yet. And that's the point. Saving will not make you wealthy. Now, if you look at The Millionaire Fastlane as a book, and it's a book we highly recommend you read, it sounds a bit cheesy, but trust me, it's good. What the book says is create money and then invest it. And that's the key to creating faster wealth. Create money and then invest it in assets like property. And that's really the secret to wealth creation, is try and find a way to create money as best you can. And then once you create sums of money, then put it into investment properties. Now, remember, you don't have to go, well, that's all right for you, Rob, and you, the other Rob, you've got businesses. I work. But remember, we've said there are other ways of creating money outside of business. So you're not truly limited to being forced into start a business. There are other ways to do it. However, if you're thinking about, actually, I may want to start a business, you can do. And remember, it doesn't have to be a full-time thing. You can do a part-time business on the side and create some extra money that way. So it's not an all or nothing thing where a lot of people think it is. It can just be being a bit entrepreneurial, being a bit creative, and thinking of something you can do on the side to create that extra income to then invest it into assets. But Rob, I'm going to come to your aid, because I know that is the knockout blow, and I know it was coming. But actually, I do believe you should save as well. This isn't one or the other. So I know I've been a bit cheeky in this episode. I've been a little bit cocky because I know I had that winning blow. But I still believe you should save. But you should save to invest. So create money, save it, and then invest it. There is that bit in the middle where you should save. I do have a rainy day fund as well, as Pete Matthew from Meaningful Money suggests you do have. I do save money when I create it, then put it into assets. So there is a saving part of my life too, but it's not the first part and it's not the most important part. It's just a piece of the jigsaw.
That's really the difference between the positions that we're putting forward. It's not like I'm saying just earn money, put a percentage of it under the mattress and leave it there, and before long you'll have loads of it and everything will be fine. You must end up investing the amount of money, whether you save it, whether you earn it, whatever happens, you've got to invest, because you're not going to get rich through saving. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that financial discipline is a great foundation for whatever you go on to do. And I think it's just something where we're kind of coming at the same thing from two different angles, but I'm putting more emphasis on the financial discipline part because of what I said back at the start. Once you've got it, if you can keep hold of it, it makes everything much easier and everything compounds. But in general, I think your knockout blow is absolutely correct. I think the Millionaire Fastlane is absolutely right. It's the whole upside thing. And so even if you take it away from what we've been talking about and look at it through a different lens. So say that you want to build schools in Africa or something. So what you could do is you could save up £100 a month and you could set up a direct debit and you could send them £100 every month. But there's going to be a point where you can't afford to give them any more. But if you started a business that donated a certain amount of its profits to this charity, then the amount that you could give them is absolutely unlimited, and it could end up being millions. You're never going to be able to give them millions by just giving what you can afford from your pay packet. So I think looking at it that way shows that this isn't just a selfish thing, a money-grabbing thing, whatever. It's kind of a principle of life that I absolutely agree with, that saving is a really important foundation, but it's that upside that we all need to keep our eye on as well, because that is what's going to propel you from like doing okay to being wealthy. And that's what we're really talking about on this show. It's not just about kind of being okay, doing the best you can. We're all in this to get wealthy. And that might sound selfish, but it doesn't have to be. It can be about being wealthy so you can do good in the world. It can be about wealth so you can pass it on to future generations. But that's what we're all in it for. And that's why this episode, I think, is quite important, because it's expanding on what we talked about last week and taking it beyond the realms of just saving. Do you see how I kind of did a bit of a turnaround at the end there and tried to make it look like I won?
Yeah, really, I've seen it as you just stepping over the line and coming on my side. But we'll call it a draw for the sake of diplomacy and the podcast continuing. Right. But Rob, let's draw the line in the sand. Let's move on. It's an interesting debate, and I'm sure one actually people would like to take up on the Property Hub as well, because it's the type of debate that people will have an opinion on. It's not a subject that people are quite passive on. Oh, I don't mind. I've spoken to people who are quite passionate about both sides of this debate, so I think it'd be really interesting to take the conversation over to the Property Hub. So go to thepropertyhub.net/make or save. That's make or save, and follow the link into the way you can leave comments on this episode. And I'd love to know what you think. And are you on the saving side? Are you on the creating side? Or are you somewhere in the middle, but you favour one over the other? Let us know. Give us your opinions, your thoughts, because I think it'll make a really interesting debate, like hopefully this episode has. So, resource of the week, Rob, you found this one, and this is brilliant. This is definitely saving, but it's saving time.
Yeah, it's just kind of a funny little thing, but it might come in useful. So we both have issues with emails. I think everyone does. Everyone feels like they get too many and they spend too much time on them. And sometimes you need to send difficult emails. And to help you with this, there's a website called cannedemails.com. We'll be linking to it from the show notes, but cannedemails.com. And it's about the simplest thing you can possibly imagine. It's got a list of different emails that you might want to send. And then all you have to do is click on it, and it will automatically go and paste it into your email program, ready for you to customize and send. So it's got things like apologize for problem, break up with someone, get refund, schedule phone call, unsubscribe aggressively, all kinds of different things. And lots of them are situations where you might not know quite what to say. So it saves you time agonizing over what to say, and it also saves you time typing it out, because you just kind of have to hit the button and there it is. But bear in mind that we both know about this, so if you try any of these on us, we will know where you got them from.
I love the breaking up with me one. That's brilliant. So for just comedy alone, have a read of it. It's good. Okay, so that's our resource of the week. That's cannedemails.com. And now for our review of the week. And hopefully this isn't canned. This is off the cuff and this is real. And this is by Reese. And Reese says, awesome podcast. This podcast is fascinating and it makes me realise why I want to go into property. A great source of information and comedy, and I'm much looking forward to meeting everyone at the meetup later today, although a little nervous. Thank you so much for the hard work that both you, Rob and Rob, have put into the podcast and the Property Hub. P.S. Looking forward to making my first investment at the end of this year. Well, thank you, Reese. I hope you enjoyed the meetup. That was obviously a few weeks back now. So thank you so much for attending that. And thank you so much for your review. We really do appreciate it.
I think that's the first time anyone's ever said comedy about the podcast without meaning it in an ironic way. So that's good. And so hopefully, Reese, you've made that first investment by now. So do feel free to check in and let us know how you're getting on, because we love to hear success stories. Next week, if you thought we had a controversial debate for you this week, we've got even more of a hot button issue, as they say, for you next week. Next week's episode is called How Do We Fix the UK's Housing Crisis? So what no one's managed to do in about the last 10 years or so, we're going to sort it out inside about 25 minutes for you. Nice and easy.
Yeah, and then the week after, we're going to move on to politics, and the week after that, religion. No, we definitely are not. We're going to stop at the housing crisis when it comes to conflict and controversy. Imagine that. We'd definitely lose some listeners. Okay, so before we do, let's wrap this episode up. It's been episode 104. The show notes are thepropertyhub.net, make or save. That's make or save. Join the conversation, put your viewpoints down. We'd love to read them and comment alongside them. So please go to that link, read all the show notes and leave your opinions there. But until next week, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, next week's episode we have a big subject, but we also have the big announcement. But until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Property Podcast. Make sure you join our mailing list at thepropertypodcast.com.
And remember, we love 5-star reviews. Rob even loves them more than air miles.